In a world that constantly demands your attention, your reaction, and your emotional energy, staying calm has become one of the rarest and most powerful skills a person can possess. Most people live at the mercy of circumstances, rising and falling with praise and criticism, success and failure, comfort and discomfort. A small inconvenience can ruin their mood, and a single unexpected event can throw their entire day into chaos. The ancient Stoics faced a far harsher reality than most of us ever will, yet they developed a way of thinking that allowed them to remain composed in moments of uncertainty, pressure, and loss. Stoicism is not about suppressing emotion or becoming indifferent to life, but about learning how to respond wisely rather than react impulsively. In this video, we will explore 7 Stoic rules that can help you stay calm in any situation. Rules that are not abstract theories, but practical mental disciplines designed to strengthen your inner stability regardless of what happens around. The first Stoic rule is to clearly distinguish between what is within your control and what is not. Because confusion in this area is the root of most anxiety and frustration. Epictetus taught that our thoughts, judgments, desires, and actions belong to us, while external events, other people's behavior, and outcomes do not. When you try to control things outside your influence, you create constant tension within yourself. You worry about how others perceive you. You stress over outcomes you cannot guarantee. And you become emotionally invested in events that will unfold regardless of your wishes. The Stoic approach is to withdraw your concern from what you cannot control and redirect your energy toward what you can. When something unexpected happens, instead of asking why this is happening to you, the Stoic asks what part of this situation is actually within their power. Often, the answer is simple: your response. Once you accept that you do not need to manage the entire world, your mind naturally becomes calmer because it is no longer fi. The second rule is to remove unnecessary judgments from events and stop turning neutral occurrences into emotional burdens. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reminded himself that things themselves do not disturb us, but our opinions about them do. An event happens, and almost instantly the mind assigns meaning, often negative, dramatic, and exaggerated. A mistake becomes a disaster, a delay becomes an insult, and a challenge becomes a personal failure. The Stoic practice is to describe events in the most objective way possible, without emotional coloring. Instead of saying that something is unbearable or humiliating, you acknowledge it simply as something that occurred. By doing this, you separate the raw fact of the situation from the emotional narrative you usually attach to it. Calmness emerges not because the situation improves, but because your mind stops amplifying it. When you learn to observe events without the third rule is to expect difficulties before they happen, so that they do not shock you when they arrive. The Stoics practiced what they called the premeditation of adversity, which involved regularly reminding themselves that setbacks, losses, misunderstandings, and failures are inevitable parts of life. This practice was not meant to make them pessimistic, but resilient. When you expect life to go smoothly, every obstacle feels like an injustice, and every inconvenience feels overwhelming. When you accept difficulty as a natural part of existence, it loses much of its power over you. A Stoic understands that plans will fail, people will disappoint, and circumstances will change without warning. When something goes wrong, They are not surprised or emotionally overwhelmed because they already made room for the possibility in their mind. Calmness is strengthened when you stop demanding that life be easy and start accepting that challenge is normal. The fourth rule is to focus on character rather than comfort, because comfort is unstable and character is not. Stoicism teaches that the only true good is virtue, meaning your ability to act with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control regardless of circumstances. External comforts, such as wealth, pleasure, status, and approval, are outside your control and can disappear at any moment. If your peace depends on these things, it will always be fragile. When discomfort arises, the Stoic does not immediately try to escape it, but instead asks what kind of person they are being called to become in that moment. Are you practicing patience when things move slowly? Courage when you feel fear? Or restraint when you feel anger? By shifting your focus from how you feel to how you act, you gain a sense of inner stability that external events cannot easily disturb. Calmness B. The fifth rule is to gain perspective by remembering how small this moment is in the larger scale of time and existence. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the vastness of the universe and the brief nature of human life. Not to diminish life's meaning, but to reduce unnecessary emotional intensity. When you are deeply immersed in a problem, it can feel overwhelming and permanent. But most difficulties lose their significance when viewed from a broader perspective. Ask yourself whether this situation will matter in a year, or even in a few months. In most cases, it will not. By reminding yourself of the temporary nature of both pleasure and pain, you reduce attachment and resistance. Calmness grows when you The sixth rule is to practice voluntary discomfort in order to train your mind to remain steady under pressure. The Stoics deliberately exposed themselves to discomfort, such as eating simple food, sleeping without luxury, or enduring physical inconvenience, so that they would not become dependent on comfort for their peace of mind. Seneca advised occasionally living as if you had lost your wealth and status to discover that what you fear is often far less terrible than imagined. By choosing discomfort on your own terms, you build confidence in your ability to endure hardship. When difficulties arise unexpectedly, they no longer feel catastrophic, because you have already proven to yourself that you can survive without ideal conditions. A calm. The seventh and final rule is to act with calm urgency rather than emotional reaction. Stoicism does not teach passivity or indifference, but disciplined action guided by reason rather than impulse. Emotions such as fear, anger, and frustration are natural, but they should inform your awareness, not control your behavior. When something goes wrong, the Stoic pauses before responding, creating space between the event and their action. In that space, they ask what the most rational and constructive response is. This approach allows you to act decisively without aggression, firmly without hostility, and confidently without arrogance. Calmness, in this sense, is not the absence of action, but the presence of control. In conclusion, the Stoics were not immune to pain, uncertainty, or loss, but they were resistant to unnecessary suffering because they trained their minds to align with reality rather than fight against it. They understood that life will always involve difficulty, that people will act unpredictably, and that circumstances will change without warning. But they also knew that none of these things need to control your inner state. By focusing only on what is within your control, removing exaggerated judgments, expecting challenges rather than resenting them, prioritizing character over comfort, maintaining perspective through time and impermanence, strengthening yourself through voluntary discomfort, and choosing rational action over emotional reaction, you develop a calm that is deep, stable, and independent of external conditions. This kind of calm is not weakness or detachment from life, but a quiet and grounded strength that allows you to move through chaos without losing yourself, to face pressure without breaking, and to live with clarity and purpose.